Hi, welcome. This is James Johnson, CharlieInWesteros, Eli Knight, LaDonna, and Maester Payne all joining us, and you can find a link to their descriptions in the bottom. Last week we had a Q&A session, and Tony Teflon asked us some questions, but we didn't quite get to them. So we're going to get to them now. Does anybody want to go first?
The quick one I could throw out there because it's not necessarily... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What was the question?
Oh, he asked when Melisandre is looking into the flames and she sees Bran and Brendan in the flames, she begins to well, I guess not spontaneously, but she begins to bleed, seemingly without a wound. And he just wondered why I thought that she bled. And I looked at it, and there's a couple things, like there's a couple theories out there about whether birthing another shadow baby, different things along those lines, or whether it's just woman's blood or that type of thing. I looked up one specific theory that's not my own, but that has to do with Shiara Star, or Sea Star, I mean. And the theory was that they thought that they may be one and the same, or that Mel maybe actually be that. My thought was on it that I thought, especially since in the last video we did, you said that Brendan was in the Duncan Eggtails, or at least mentioned, and that taught me, or just told me his age, and I kind of took it as maybe her seeing Brendan in the flames was seeing someone who knew who she really was, or at least her own mortality, and maybe that was kind of a show on her mortality, her bleeding, you know, when she saw potentially someone who could expose her, or maybe just the fact that that Brendan himself was sitting beside Bran, who is a green seer and is someone who could, in the same sense, expose her. That was I was just thinking a play on her mortality, like a reminder to herself when she saw the blood that she's not immortal, you know.
Good answer, Eli.
That's an interesting theory. I like that.
I couldn't help but relate it to the shadow baby and it having something to do with her being told she needs to have another shadow baby, which, by the way, she's had two this far in the books. Did y'all know that?
Yeah.
I think they did, but I've forgotten.
Because we're never really told what happened with Renly, except that we see the monster, and it's later when she's killed, there's somebody
attack Storm's
End, and we watch her have a shadow baby. Also, random, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Stannis has a dream the night that Renly got killed where he pictured himself as he couldn't explain it and doesn't really go into it, but he basically was the one who killed his brother. Okay, you might want to go next.
I have something to add there. I also think it might have something to do with the blood sacrifice with those werewolves, because I do think there is something akin to that.
Oh, that was the only thing I was going to add that I forgot to throw in for the original thought was that they thought Melisandre may be the red bleeding star herself, instead of the comet.
I'm not buying into that, but okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was just what they thought, and then I ran off with my own thing with it. But
right.
All right. Anybody want to go next?
Nope.
I will go next. So his Tony Teflon, first of all, looking damn good in the video. I like the way you were all dressed up, snazzy. You looked good.
The Don.
Tony Teflon.
We pull the strings. Cheer.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
I love it.
Huh?
That's not making fun. I love Tony.
Absolutely not. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
all right.
Not always.
Okay. So just wanted to add that. So his question for me was, who poisoned the locust? And I gotta say, Tony, it's because of you that I know what I'm about to say, because I researched it, and I'm gonna link to the article that I ended up reading, which I think has the strongest argument on everything. But so basically, we presume it's his star, Zolorak, and we presume that because Barristan does his own investigation after the fact and leads himself to conclude that it must have been Histar. But the article also even talks about the fact that that Barristan seems to be having headaches and is not quite capable of comprehending all the things that are going on, almost like he is a lunk, Dunk the Lunk, not quite capable of understanding the depth of what's going on. But Barristan, in order to find out who did it, starts investigating and starts questioning Shavepate, through which he hears that the confectioner, Hisdar's confectioner, is responsible. But Shavepate's already got the confectioner and has broken him, basically. And Barristan goes to interview Shavepate on his own, and the confectioner. So Shavepate has had his influence on the confectioner before Barristan ever talks to the confectioner. Barristan questions the confectioner, and the confectioner says, "The Sons of the Harpy took my daughter, and they told me only when Daenerys was dead would they give me my daughter back." And ultimately they returned his daughter in 9 pieces. So, because Dany wasn't killed. But why? It makes a lot of sense for him to lie. It doesn't make a lot of sense for Hisdar to have killed Dany in such an open place. And even Shavepate says that Hisdar's piece was real. He wanted that piece until after the pit, which was after Dany was ultimately almost killed. So it doesn't really make any sense for Hisdar to have done all this beforehand. So, and the reason the Sons of the Harpy are considered bad is because of this situation, really. And the irony is that Shavepate's group of men, who are called the Brazen Beasts, are actually constantly stealing or hurting the Sons of the Harpy in some strong ways. So our belief that the Sons of the Harpy are evil is kind of not true. Our belief that Hisdar Zolora killed the locusts certainly isn't guaranteed. And the evidence sort of points to Shavepate. Skahaz also thinks it was Hisdar, which just kind of supports our conclusion. But it really doesn't make much sense unless it's Shavepate. And I'll link to the article below. So that's my answer to your question. And I got a question in response, Tony Teflon. Since they've left out, oh man, who's the guy who dies with eating the locusts? Big guy poops in somebody's head after.
He didn't die. That was Strong Belwas.
He didn't die.
He didn't die though. Yeah, he just got really skinny.
But with him being omitted from the show.
With him being omitted from the show, who, if anybody, what character will replace him? That's my response.
Melisandre.
Well,
Melisandre is not going to die.
No, she's not going to die.
I have a prediction on who might replace him based off of this past episode, but I'll address that in our group review.
Okay. But my point, Mom, is that somebody has to take the poison.
I don't know the answer to that, but if I can say this, James, you did a great analysis, and I'm glad that Tony asked that question, because I got bogged down like a lot of people did in these books at that point, and I think you're right, and I read a different article, so if I could supplement what you said, which we're on the same page.
How do you know it was a different article?
What you said isn't quite what I read. But isn't Shakaz the Shavepate? That's what I had. The same person. I can't hear. Is there something?
Yeah, Charlie.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. You want to repeat
Sorry.
that, LaDonna? Sorry, I couldn't hear you, LaDonna.
That's okay.
That's correct. Shakaz is Shavepate.
Okay. What I wanted to say in this article was great. I'm not taking any credit for it whatsoever. But they said you better start looking at Shakaz the Shavepate as if he is the little finger of Essos. And they said because, and I didn't remember this, Shakaz's family is the Shakaz Kandak family, Kandaq, and he and Hisdar de Lorac's family, which are both nobles, have been opposed to each other forever. And that even Shakaz's family kind of thought he was a traitor when he turned towards Dany to support. But really, he is a double spy he got in there when the Harpies and Dany started to make peace. He went in to stir the crap up again. And there's bad blood between his daughters and his family. And one of the major things they said is, anytime there's some poisoning or killing, like Liza out the moon door or the poisoning at the Purple Wedding, there's a patsy there. And the patsy in this case was Hisdar. And Hisdar and the Harpy and Galaza Galore and Dany were actually making some kind of peace. He saw it happening and he stirred it up, and that's why he did it. He also kept telling Dany to kill the child hostages from the noble families, which is absolutely verboten in this series. We all know children are supposed to be held to a higher standard and not killed. And the confectioner thing, James, I was going to say the same thing, that by the time Barristan got to him to be questioning, he was already a broken man. He'd been tortured. And also I would say this, that this person made a great point, that Martin is saying that war is based on bad information, and that Barristan said, quote unquote, peace is the pearl beyond price. Love that.
That was an awesome quote.
All right. Mama?
Well, my question is, who is Septa Lemore? And I think it can only be 3 people. I think it might be Dany's mother. No. Bodhi, gotta be quiet. The other one is it Joanna Lannister? And the other one is it, well, it could be just a Septa, but that makes no sense. Or is it actually a Chardane? And if you look at it, I think that if you compare and contrast all those people, it makes more sense for it to either be Joanna Lannister or a Chardane. And I would say that Joanna Lannister would never have left, if she's alive, she would never have left the King's Landing, Westeros area because she's trying to keep track of her children. A Chardane, even though her name is Septa Lemore, they keep calling her, which means that she has nobility, she has noble blood, which goes to Lady Dane. She has obviously had children because she has stretch marks when she comes up out of the water, and also the fact that she is still a great beauty despite her age, and the fact that she is still promoting some Targaryen cause all leads us back to a Chardane.
100% agreed. Perfectly said, my dad.
All right. I think we all got to agree on that one.
Do you want to go, Charlie, or?
You can go ahead if you want.
So mine was Jojen's Green Dream, why he came to Winterfell, the winged wolf being chained to the ground bound to the ground by great stone chains, and a crow pecking at it, and the beak was too strong. Tony wanted a deep answer from me, which I don't think I really have. To who the winged wolf is, I mean, the obvious choice would probably be Bran. I neither here nor there. That could be possibly be Jon. Watching this episode, you could say Sansa with her wings at the end of this episode, although I wouldn't consider that. The stone chains, possibly bloodlines. You're chained by your blood. And the crow pecking at the chains, you could go any number of ways with it, but the thing I found most interesting about the theory was, or when I looked at this, was Bran asks Jojen if the crow had 3 eyes, and then Jojen says yes, and Summer chooses this point to lift his head up and stare at Jojen. And I'm possibly thinking that Jojen's actually lying here. The crow didn't have 3 eyes. This is why Summer stares at him. They make a point about it. And I've had thoughts about Jojen so far this season, where he's keeping Bran and Jon apart. He doesn't let them meet each other. He's also taken Bran from Winterfell when he was the last Stark in Winterfell. So I'm kind of curious if Jojen's not actually being played. These green dreams of his are being implanted. None of this is concrete. This is just where I've been sort of looking. There's any number of ways you can go with who's the winged wolf, who's the crow pecking at it, Cold Hands, Bloodraven, Jon himself, maybe, his eyes opening up. But I'm more interested in the Jojen aspect of it and why Jojen's taking Bran north. Who's giving Jojen these dreams? He had them when he was first sick, right? When he had the fever.
Well, you know, I watched an interview with Thomas Brady Sangster, and it was a very enlightening interview. I mean, really almost a metaphysical interview by itself.
Your eyes look amazing on that. I don't know what it is about the lighting right now, but your eyes, Mom, look amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say that every time, but I didn't want to intrude.
You all are such charmers. No, but this interview was almost metaphysical in and of itself, and I, based on the interview alone, I think that Jojen very clearly said that he is going to be an unsung hero, and that he is taking Bran where he needs to go for right or for wrong. But I don't think he's being misled. I think where he's going is where they have to go, and it probably is going to put all of them in danger. But that doesn't mean he's not doing the right thing. The last thing I would say, MP, is that I think clearly the winged wolf is Bran. It actually leads to Bran in that passage. I don't think it can be anyone else. But I think that he is a winged wolf who has got to fly without flying. It's kind of an oxymoron, I guess, or a contradiction in terms, because he's got to do something metaphysical to fly, and it is going to be through his visions and his brain metaphysics that'll do it, as opposed to doing something physicalized. That's not.
I agree. Sorry. I was thinking earlier today that I don't think there's any possible way Bran can ride a dragon. If he does, he's gonna fall. He's gonna fall again somehow.
Not physically. Not ride it physically.
Let my finish, Mama.
Yeah. No, I was agreeing. If he did it physically, he's gonna end up falling. If he does it through skin changing or whatever, then absolutely. And I agree with you also that Jojen's taking them where he needs to go, but to what end, who's drawing them there, that I'm uncertain about. And if Jojen's doing it on his own accord, or if somebody's manipulating him.
I truly believe it's because of his own innate visions.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We don't know. To add to what my mom was saying, the interview you're referring to, Mom, Jojen, the actor, straight up says that he has no idea where the story's going. That he has to play a lot of it ambiguous because he has not been told. Although he has said that his father's alive, and he has said that the three-eyed crow is like a camera in the room.
He did.
When Maester Payne said what he said, I couldn't help thinking about Inception. He said something about planning these dreams, which is totally possible. Because if you are able to warg another person, the way Martin writes Fever Dream, you never get inside anybody's mind except in the way a book is normally written. The only time you get anything like Dracula mind controlling is when they look at each other and there's light in his eyes. You could tell the darkness in his eyes, and suddenly the person that he's looking at does something you wouldn't expect them to do. The manipulation, you have a good point, and I couldn't help but think of Inception. The idea of implanting a memory in somebody else. Anyway, great.
There's also the crow trying to peck at the stone chains, but the stone's too strong and his beak's not strong enough to get through, which may be needing an extension, needing somebody to help do the work for him, which is why Jojen sort of comes into the picture and helps to bring him closer to where he needs to be. He can't do it if it's Bloodraven or Cold Hands or anybody, if it's somebody other than Jojen himself.
Well,
Draw somebody in to help him peck away at Bran, which is what Jojen's doing. Jojen's pecking at Bran himself.
That's true.
The way I saw it was just, and I could be way off topic, don't get me wrong, is I kind of saw it as maybe the stone was Bran, sorry, LaDonna, Bran's connection to the earth, you know, and that being his green seer connection, and the crow being Jon trying to break him from that hold that the green seer connection has on him, but it's too strong, and that kind of plays into maybe Bran turning, and Jon isn't able to save him when he's trying to.
I'm not sure that weirwood isn't the stone, because it's almost like the weirwood has grown up through Bloodraven, and James and I have always kind of thought that maybe Bloodraven was like the fly in the original movie where he's caught in a web.
Help me. Yeah.
I watched that when I was like 6, and I've been scarred the rest of my whole life.
Jeff Goldblum. That
Great movie,
made
man.
and ruined his career at the same time.
I'm talking about the old version where at the last scene of the movie is a spider web with a little tiny fly and a human head on it going, "Help me!" And they have to throw a rock at it to kill it, to put it out of its misery. That fucked me up as a kid. If I can respond real quick.
Well, wait, James. Let me say this. I just want you all to know that I screwed all 3 of my kids up really early as babies, putting them on a pillow.
Maester Payne was like, "What?" Because her sentence started
Well,
with.
no, the sound was cutting out, so I'm trying to make sure I can hear it.
Okay.
I just tried to really screw my children up from infants, because when they were little, I mean really little, I would put them on these big pillows and make them watch like all the classic like early 1940s horror movies when they were like, so they've been terrified their entire lives.
I walked in on my mom watching The Exorcist when I was like 8, and she goes, "Come on."
I watched The Exorcist when I was very young, and it was not a movie that ever scared me.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
literally. No, I see no fear in that movie.
Same way. At the time, I was a devout believer, as much as an indoctrinated child can be, and I think it had an effect on me. But if I can respond real quickly to what Maester Payne said, and I had not thought about it in this specific instance, and you have to buy into some of our theories that we don't have a real grounds for, but if you imagine that Bloodraven is in fact being subverted by the Night's King, and the Night's King is using him for some nefarious purposes, the three-eyed raven would be the Night's King through Bloodraven getting access to Bran using the weirwood trees. Well, if Bloodraven's sigil is kind of this raven thing, which it may even be the raven on Lord Mormont's shoulder, well, if you're going to add another character on top of it, wouldn't you add a third eye? Almost as if Bloodraven's symbol in the Green Dreams is actually just a raven, but the third eye is the manipulation of it. And if that's true, then if Jojen is lying about there being 3 eyes, then that 2-eyed raven would be Bloodraven, and it would be trying to break the chains that are holding Bran down. And if it knows the Night's King's trying to manipulate Bran, that's what it would be trying to do, break those chains. And the winged wolf is obvious. I think that part is obvious. Bran riding a dragon.
I agree. Bran's the obvious choice for sure.
Bran's controlling a dragon. He is a wolf and a dragon. He's the griffin in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's not on the back of the dragon in my opinion, but he certainly is warging it. But the chains, it's all metaphorical, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, it was a very hard question for me, Tony, but I went many different places, and that's the deepest I could get to with it.
I like Maester Payne.
That's really cool. I'd never considered the 3-eyed raven. I'd always kind of looked into it as the third eye, you know, as religious symbol, things like that. But I'd never considered that third eye literally being the extra person watching. You know, that's really cool. I'd never considered it like that.
Yeah, IC Spots gave me a link to a bunch of articles on, or mentioned the wiki for looking into the Hindu version of the third eye and stuff like that, but I never got there.
And again, Thomas Brody Sangster, and I'm buying into the third eye as well. I know what that is, but
I convinced my mama. It doesn't happen very often.
no. But Thomas Brody Sangster said the three-eyed raven is like a closed-circuit TV where they watch whatever Bran is doing.
It's a camera in the room, is what she's saying. All right, Charlie, knock it out. Do it.
I'll keep it very, very quick. I think the question was, why was Daenerys unburnt, if I recall?
Yeah.
I haven't done any deep research into it, honestly, but I don't think it requires that much research. Obviously, I think Tony's asking me, you're asking me whether or not Daenerys can burn, and the answer is she can, C-A-N. But the reason why she did not burn in the context of the sacrifice, I guess, where her dragon eggs were born, if that was what he's referring to specifically in this context, then that's because she did, of course, a form of blood magic, which, although, is one of those occasions where she was able to emerge unburnt, is partially because of the fact that she has Dragon Lord ancestry. And if you want to hear my full theory on that, I have a YouTube video uploading on a discussion with Bilal on the history of Valyria. So check that out once it gets uploaded. It's taken a while, so a little plug there for you guys. But
that's good stuff.
That's my answer to the question. Daenerys can burn. Magic was why she couldn't burn in that context.
I would like to.
Yeah, if you'll see me a link to that, Charlie, I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's still uploading. It's been over a day now, but hopefully soon it'll be done.
I would like to add this, that it possibly, and again, I'm talking off the top of my head, but possibly because Miri Mazdor was involved in maybe some not so good stuff like the blood sacrifice, then when she tried to save herself doing that chanting, perhaps it was a turning against her and wouldn't save her, and it sounded off Dany.
Interesting thought, LaDonna. Honestly, I really think Daenerys does have some magical abilities ingrained in her own blood. Again, I don't want to get too much into that, so,
We'll see. And
we'll see.
I hope so, because I think that would be marvelous. But
I think that Daenerys, well, I think I guess I'll just get into it a little bit. I think Daenerys' ancestors from Old Valyria, they did use blood magic, amongst other forms of magic to control dragons, and I think that became integrally a part of who they were and a part of their own bloodline, kind of, I guess you could compare them to the Starks in the North. And I think there's a bit of a parallel there with, A Song of Ice and Fire, where Daenerys kind of does symbolize the fire aspect in more than one way, as well as which includes a magical aspect as well, so.
like it.
Just going to throw in, not on the question thing, but just real quick for Charlie, did you know or did you hear that, I don't remember Dany's the actress's name, but she, Emilia Clarke, is that her name?
Yeah, Emilia Clarke, yeah.
Yeah. She's the lead in the new Terminator movie, the new reboot.
Really? They're making another Terminator movie?
She plays Sarah Connor, which big shoes to fill.
They're rebooting the series?
I don't know if it's a complete reboot. They're going to do the time travel thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger's old, gray hair, but he's still there. Robots apparently age, but anyway, yeah, and she's the lead in that, so I just thought that was cool.
Awesome. Okay, I'll check that out when it comes out.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that.
Neither did I.
I had heard about it, and since Lena Headey did the TV show, they're both very...
Yeah.
That is pretty funny. All right, let's do the other video. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you, Charlie, Eli, Maester Payne, and my mama for putting up with me requiring this before we do the next video.
Oh, that's fine.
No worries.
I'll request
See you in a couple of minutes.
Yep.
All right.